singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to arise.
Hi everybody, I'm Josh Powers, I'm your host, and we're back at Cox Studio with our ASRC members who are all on the autism spectrum, and they wanted to do a special show today. We are going to recognize veterans for Veterans Day, and we have two very special guests with us today. We have Frank and Frank. Frank, I still have to get this right. Frank V and Frank Z, both still similar, right? So we're going to still work on that throughout the show, but you are both veterans who served in war. Frank V was in World War II, and Frank Z, you were in Vietnam.
Correct.
So thank you so much for being here with us. This is really special to have both of you with us today. And I look forward to hearing about it because most people, you don't always have the opportunity, first of all, to talk about World War II and Vietnam, but a lot of people, it's not the first topic that comes up. It's not always something people like to talk about. So I really thank you for being here today. So for a little history lesson, for those who don't know, World War II started in 1939, correct? But America didn't actually join until 1941,
right?
Correct? Mm-hmm. Now, what branch of service were you in?
I was in the Army Air Force.
The Air Force, okay. And where were you specifically located when you went to war?
I was based in Italy.
Okay. And what... Well, I'm going to start with what year did you join? Was it 1941?
Well, I joined when I was in high school. I took the exam for the Air Force because I had an interest of being a pilot. So after passing the exam, I was only 17 at the time, so I really wasn't able to go in until I was 18, which I entered the Army in January of '44.
Okay, so your war had already been going for a few years. Mm-hmm. So you were 18 by the time you went in, correct? Right. And so when did you take that test? That was your senior year?
When I was a senior, yes.
Okay, and so you had to wait till you were 18, you went into the war, and so you didn't did you ever go to college afterwards? Or?
I went to college after the war.
Okay, and how many years did you serve?
Was a little less than 2 years.
Okay. And was that a solid 2 years? Would you come home? You know what I mean? Were you away
we'd come home on leave
okay.
Occasionally.
So similar to today. It's same system.
Sometimes they'd give you a break and let you go home for a week.
Okay. So you were in Italy, off and on for those 2 years.
No, I was in Italy from October '44 until May of '45.
Okay. And then you went elsewhere? Is that what you're...
No, I was in training up until I went to Italy.
Got it.
I was a tail gunner on a B-24 bomber, so I had a lot of training to do before I went overseas.
Now, I assume before you left for the war, after you graduated high school, you were living with your parents, I assume?
Yes.
Just normal family life?
Yes.
What was that like? I mean, was that a normal thing back then to go into the war? Was it kind of like you kind of expected it, or was that just as shocking, in a sad moment as it is today? I would
to go into service.
Yeah, leaving your family, leaving that life you've had for all your,
At the time, after Pearl Harbor, I think it instilled in everyone that they wanted to go into the service to help the country. There was a lot of my classmates who left to go into the Navy when they were 17. So I would say that a good portion of my graduating class went into the service while they were in high school or shortly after, either the Marines, or the Navy, because at that time they were taking recruits at 17. You couldn't go into the Army or the Army Air Force until you were 18. So that's where I went in.
Okay. Were your parents sad, would you say?
Of course.
That was hard?
It was very difficult for my parents.
How do you think they dealt with it? I mean, was there more, since, like you said, most of your class went in, was there just a sense of community back home, a sense of support you think they felt? Or was
I'm
it...
sure, but every parent feels bad when their son or daughter leaves home to go into something where they know it could be dangerous. But it was a common thing then. And they weren't alone. There was neighbors up and down the street that had children that were already in the service. So it was a given that I was going to go in whether I joined or I was drafted. So I wanted to join because the Air Force is where I wanted to be.
How normal was drafting back then? What percent of the people that you fought with were drafted?
Oh, I have no idea.
No idea?
No.
That wasn't common?
No. The people that I flew with all were volunteers.
Volunteer. Okay. Now, producers say you were a tail gunner. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What is that? I've never heard of that, to be honest with you.
Well, I was in a 4-engine bomber, and there was 10 members in the crew. They had a nose gunner, a tail gunner, a belly gunner or a ball gunner, an upper turret gunner, and 2 waist gunners. And then you had a pilot, co-pilot, bombardier, and navigator.
Okay.
And as the tail gunner, my position was to protect the ship from the rear of the plane.
Okay. So hence the name tail. You were
I was
quite
flying
literally
backwards all the time.
Okay.
I never knew where I was going, but I knew where I was, where I came from.
Okay, so protecting the tail in the literal sense. Now I hear from modern Air Force that it takes quite a long time to get used to those serious planes flying at that, speed, altitude, however you want to say it. But did you find that difficult at first, getting used to flying in those planes?
Well, I never flew in any type of plane, and the first plane I flew in was at gunnery school, and it was a single-engine plane. Now, when you talk about speed, that we didn't have back in World War II.
And that's what I was going to ask.
If we hit 250 miles an hour, that you were doing something.
Wow.
Plus the fact that you were flying in formation all the time. When your group took off, there were at least 28 from each group in the 15th Air Force that flew on a mission, and you flew in a tight formation because the concentrated firepower of the group would protect you against enemy planes.
Okay. Did you ever see the enemy?
Yes.
You did. Was it close up, or what was that like?
Well, I was never attacked by the planes because we had a very good fighter escort. Plus the fact that a lot of the planes that were flying to attack us usually would not attack unless you were a straggler. Then they jump on you if you were a straggler. With the concentrated fire plus the fighter escort, there wasn't too many attacks at the time. They modified their method of attacking by what they call a company front, where they'd have about 6 planes, wingtip to wingtip, come in either at the tail or at the nose because you had fewer guns bearing on them. So that was their strategy. Our escort, their job was to get the German planes before they hit our squadrons.
Okay. So did you only see the enemy in the air, or did you ever see, any part of the enemy on the ground? Were you on the ground much for that, or your time of fighting was really spent in the air, correct?
Yeah, well, our missions average around 8 hours every mission, and we flew to Germany and Central Europe.
And where would you come home every night? Where was your base?
We'd land back in Pantanella, Italy, that was the name of the base. It was just south of Foggia, which is toward the Adriatic.
Were there enemies around that area, or was that a very safe area? Was that scary to go to sleep every night there?
Oh, no.
It was very safe.
We were well behind the lines. All the airplanes were well behind the lines.
Okay.